I tell you, most men sleep through the most powerful 20 minutes of their entire day. They wake, and within seconds, before they have fully opened their eyes, the world rushes in. The bills, the worries, yesterday's failures, and in that moment, without knowing it, they have set the tone for everything that follows. The day is lost before it has begun. Now you may say to me, but Neville, I cannot control what I think the moment I wake. The thoughts come automatically. And I tell you, that is precisely the problem. You have practiced the wrong state for so long that it has become automatic. You wake in lack because you have rehearsed lack 1,000 mornings in a row. But listen carefully. There is a brief window, a sacred window, between sleep and full waking consciousness when you are still near to that state where all assumptions harden into fact. If you will discipline yourself to use those first moments deliberately, the entire day must obey you, not through effort, not through struggle, through law. I will show you exactly how to do this, step by step. But first, you must understand why the morning is sacred. You see, the morning is sacred because consciousness at that moment is still soft, still impressionable, still near to the subconscious. When you sleep, you descend into that deeper level of mind where assumptions take root without the interference of reason. And when you wake, you have not yet fully returned to the surface. There is a threshold period, a brief window. You stand between two worlds. Most men do not recognize this window. They wake, and immediately the objective world asserts itself. The alarm sounds, the day's obligations press in, the worries that troubled them yesterday return with full force. And in those first unguarded moments, they accept the state they have always occupied. Limitation, lack, struggle, I tell you, this is not inevitable. It is habit, and habit can be changed. Now, why does this matter? Because the state you occupy in those first moments becomes the dominant frequency for the entire day. You think your day is shaped by what happens to you. You think circumstances cause your experience. I tell you, the opposite is true. Your state causes the circumstances. The day does not impose itself upon you. The day obeys the state you bring to it. Let me make this very clear. You are not a victim of your day. Your day is yourself pushed out. Every event, every conversation, every so-called accident is a reflection of the state you are occupying in consciousness. And if you wake in the state of lack, if you wake in worry, if you wake rehearsing yesterday's problems, then the day has no choice but to confirm that state. It is law. But hold this thought. Before I give you the method itself, there is a specific signal you must learn to recognize. Most men assume the wish fulfilled in the morning and then wonder whether the assumption has taken root or simply evaporated like morning mist. There is a way to know, a feeling you must recognize. Without that signal, you will practice blindly and doubt whether anything has happened at all. I will give you that signal in just a moment, after you understand what you are really doing when you assume. When I speak of assumption, I do not mean wishful thinking. I do not mean hoping for a better day. I mean occupying in consciousness the feeling of the wish fulfilled. There is a vast difference. Now, I must insist on this, my friend, because many who have heard me teach still confuse assumption with petition. They wake and they say, I hope today is better. I hope something changes. This is not assumption, this is begging. This is the state of lack crying out for relief. And consciousness, which is the only reality, hears the lack and returns more lack. Do not let anyone, including yourself, talk you out of this distinction. Hope is not assumption. Wishing is not assumption. Only the feeling of already possessing what you desire is assumption. When you assume, you do not hope, you do not wish, you feel yourself to be already in possession of what you desire. If you want abundance, you assume the feeling of abundance before a single dollar has appeared. If you want health, you assume the feeling of perfect vitality before the body shows evidence. If you want love, you assume the feeling of being loved before the person appears. This is not denial of facts. This is selection of state. All states exist now. The state of wealth exists now. The state of health exists now. The state of love exists now. You are not creating something new. You are tuning your consciousness to a state that already is. And the morning, my friend, is when you choose. Now, I know what you are thinking. You say to me, but Neville, the circumstances are real. When I wake, the bills are still there, the problem is still there. How can I assume something different when the facts contradict me? Let me answer that, and let me do so with a story. Many years ago, when I was teaching in Los Angeles, a woman came to see me after one of my lectures. She had been out of work for 7 months. 7 months. Her savings were nearly gone. The rent was overdue. Every morning she woke in a state of panic. The moment her eyes opened, the fear flooded in. What would happen to her? How would she survive? She spent the first hour of every day rehearsing her lack, amplifying her worry, confirming her limitation. I asked her, what would you feel if you were gainfully employed? If you had more than enough? If the rent were paid and money flowed to you easily? She said, I would feel relief. I would feel safe. I would wake without fear. I said, then you must feel that now, not when the job appears, now, before any evidence. You must assume the feeling of relief, of safety, of abundance in the first moments after you wake, before the world rushes in. At first she resisted. She said, but Neville, that feels like lying to myself. The facts are the facts. I told her, the facts are the outpicturing of yesterday's assumptions. You have been assuming lack for 7 months, and the world has obeyed. Now you must assume abundance, and the world will obey that just as faithfully. But you must be disciplined. You must assume it in the morning when consciousness is soft, and you must not contradict it throughout the day. She agreed to try. I gave her very simple instructions. Every morning before rising, before checking the time, before allowing a single thought of worry, she was to lie still and assume the feeling of being employed. Not hope for it, not visualize the interview, simply feel the relief and naturalness of already being gainfully employed. She was to dwell in that feeling for as long as she could sustain it without effort. And then when she rose, she was to carry that feeling with her. She practiced this faithfully for 11 days. On the 12th day, she received a telephone call from a former colleague she had not spoken to in over a year. The colleague mentioned almost in passing that a position had opened at her firm. She thought of this woman immediately. Within a week, the woman had been interviewed and hired. The salary was more than she had earned in her previous position. She came to see me again astonished. She said, Neville, I did nothing. I did not apply. I did not network. I simply assumed. I told her, you did everything. You changed your state, and the bridge of incidents appeared to confirm the state you occupied. Do you see, she did not manipulate circumstances. She did not force anything into being. She simply occupied a different state in consciousness, and the world rearranged itself to match. This is how creation works. This is law. Now let me tell you what she did that most people fail to do. She did not analyze how it would happen. She did not demand it appear on her timeline. She did not check every hour to see if evidence had arrived. She simply assumed the feeling in the morning, and then she let it be. She planted the seed and trusted the harvest. Now here is where the lecture turns. Most who hear me stop right here in their understanding and miss the deeper truth. They assume in the morning and then spend the entire day undoing their work without even knowing it. There is a pattern to this undoing, a specific habit of inner speech that destroys the morning assumption by noon. I must tell you what that pattern is, for if you do not guard against it, all your morning work will come to nothing. This brings me to the second great mistake, and I must warn you of this because it will undo all your work if you are not careful. You assume the wish fulfilled in the morning. Good. But then throughout the day you contradict that assumption with your inner conversations. You speak to yourself in the language of lack. You complain, you doubt, you rehearse the problem again and again. My friend, you cannot serve two states. You cannot assume abundance in the morning and then spend the day in conversations of poverty. The assumption planted in the morning is a seed, but if you dig it up with doubt, if you uproot it with worry, it cannot grow. I recall a man who came to me in the early 1950s. He wanted to heal a chronic condition. Every morning he assumed perfect health. He felt himself whole, vital, free of pain. But by midday he was back in the state of illness. He spoke to his friends about his symptoms. He researched his condition obsessively. He planned for disability. His inner conversations were entirely occupied with the problem. I said to him, you are planting the seed each morning and uprooting it by noon. Your morning assumption must be protected. When the old thought arises, when the doubt whispers, you must gently return to the state you established in the morning. He asked, "How do I do that?" I told him, "You simply notice the thought. You do not fight it. You do not condemn yourself for having it. You simply recognize that it belongs to the old state and you return quietly to the feeling of health. Over and over, as many times as necessary, you return." He did this, and within 3 weeks the symptoms began to fade. Within 2 months they were gone entirely. His doctors could not explain it, but I can. He remained faithful, he did not waver, and the body, which is only consciousness made visible, conformed to the assumption he held. Now I want to give you the method, step by step, exactly as I would have you practice it tomorrow morning. First, upon waking, do not move immediately, do not reach for anything, do not let the day rush in, remain still, eyes closed or softly open. You are standing in that threshold state between sleep and full waking. This is the moment. Do not waste it. Second, ask yourself, what is my wish fulfilled? Not what I want, not what I hope for. What would I feel if it were already done? Health, wealth, love, a specific outcome? Identify the feeling, be specific. Third, assume that feeling now, not as something distant, not as something you are working toward, as something you possess in this very moment. Feel the relief, feel the satisfaction, feel the naturalness of already being it. You are not pretending, you are occupying the state where it is already true. Fourth, dwell in this feeling for as long as you can sustain it without effort. Do not strain, do not concentrate with force. This is not work, this is rest. Gently settle into the feeling as you would settle into a comfortable chair. Let it saturate your consciousness. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, as long as it feels natural. And fifth, when you rise, carry the feeling with you. Do not analyze it. Do not question how it will come to pass. Do not check for evidence. Simply move through your morning as one who already is what you assumed. The bridge of incidents will appear. The how is not your concern. This is the method, simple, but it requires discipline. Now, before I tell you how to apply this tomorrow morning with certainty, there is one final piece. It is the piece that separates those who see their world respond in days from those who practice for months and see nothing. Most teachers will not tell you this because they do not understand it themselves. It has to do with the signal I mentioned earlier, the feeling that tells you the assumption has taken root. Without this, you will doubt. With it, you will know. Let me address that now. Now, let me warn you of 3 mistakes that will destroy your work if you fall into them. The first mistake is assuming with force instead of feeling. You wake and you try to make it happen. You strain, you concentrate intensely, you grip the thought with mental effort. The world will tell you that concentration is power, that intensity of will brings results. I tell you they are wrong. Intensity born of desperation is the state of lack dressed in different clothing. The assumption must feel easy, natural, as though you are remembering something that already is, not forcing something into being. There is no such thing as forcing the law into operation. Put it from your mind. The second mistake is contradicting the assumption with inner conversations throughout the day. Remember what I told you a few moments ago, that you cannot serve two states. Now this is where you see why. Your morning assumption plants the seed, but if you spend the day in worry, in complaint, in rehearsal of the problem, you uproot the seed. When the old thought arises, return to your morning assumption, gently, persistently. The third mistake is demanding immediate evidence and then doubting when it does not appear. You assume on Monday and expect results by Tuesday. And when Tuesday comes and nothing has changed, you say, it does not work. My friend, a seed planted in the ground does not become a tree overnight. It remains in the dark soil, and in its own appointed time it breaks through. Your assumption is the seed. Plant it each morning. Do not dig it up by doubting. Do not demand it appear today. Simply plant it day after day and trust the harvest. You ask me, how long must I do this? I tell you, as long as it takes for the assumption to harden into fact. But if you remain faithful, if you do not waver, it must come to pass. It is law. I am not theorizing. I am telling you what works. And now I will tell you the signal. When you have truly assumed the wish fulfilled, you will feel a quiet relief, not excitement, not forced enthusiasm, relief, a sense of rest, as though something that was undone is now complete. That is the signal. If you feel strain, if you feel effort, if you feel you are trying to convince yourself, the assumption has not yet taken root. But when you feel the naturalness, the ease, the simple satisfaction of already being it, then you know the seed is planted and you can trust the harvest. Make no mistake, this is not about positive thinking. This is not about affirmations repeated mechanically. Do not be misled by the teachers who tell you to repeat words without feeling. They have not understood the law. This is about occupying a state in consciousness and remaining faithful to that state until the outer world reflects it. The world is yourself pushed out. Change the inner state, and the outer world must change. There is no exception to this. I have given you the principle. I have given you the method. I have warned you of the mistakes. Now it is yours to apply. Tomorrow morning, when you wake, you will have a choice. You can allow the old state to flood in automatically, as it has done 1,000 times before, or you can interrupt the pattern. You can assume deliberately the feeling of your wish fulfilled. And if you will do this faithfully for 20 minutes each morning, you will watch your day obey you, not through manipulation, not through effort, through law. The outer world has no power over you. It is only a mirror, and the moment you change what stands before the mirror, the reflection must change. This is certain, and now I tell you, my friend, the secret you have just heard is not a secret at all. It has been hiding in plain sight in every sentence I have spoken. The morning, the state, the assumption, the day obeying you. All of it comes down to one thing. The state you occupy becomes your world. When you assume the wish fulfilled in those first 20 minutes, you are not performing a technique. You are not doing manifestation work. You are entering a state. And from that state, the entire structure of your day must rearrange itself to match. This is law, this is certain. This has always been true, whether you knew it or not. Tomorrow morning, try this, just once. Wake, and before the world rushes in, assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Dwell in it for 20 minutes. Then rise and move through your day as one who already is what you assumed. You may find that the day responds immediately. You may find that the assumption must be planted for several mornings before the evidence appears. Both are well, my friend, both are well. The law does not fail. Only persistence in the wrong state fails. Remember always, consciousness is the only reality. Imagining creates reality. The world is yourself pushed out. What you assume in the morning, the day must reflect. There is no power outside of you. There never was. May you wake tomorrow in the knowledge of who you are. May you assume the wish fulfilled with the certainty of one who knows the law. May your day obey you, not because you have forced it, but because you have occupied the state where it must. Go now and live from the end. Until we meet again, my friend, may you dwell in the state of the wish fulfilled.